while the world celebrated Wilden's Worldie, I was sat in my office, celebrating quietly with my bottle of champagne and my bucket of KFC, and I was thinking to myself, you did not do that. I did it. Today in Understanding Football Manager, the A to Z, F is for finishing. And I still see it in forums all the time. Suddenly my strikers cannot score goals. And yet we do nothing to help them. Let's go and kick some balls. Hello and welcome back to FM with Old Man Phil. And if you are a first-time visitor, I'm Phil and welcome to the channel. And today in Understanding Football Manager, the A to Z, F is for finishing. And when I do occasionally visit forums and wander through the threads, I do see it still quite a lot. My forwards suddenly cannot score. And I complain regularly about it myself instead of staying calm and dealing with the problem. And today we are going to look at two ways that you can deal with this problem when your strikers suddenly cannot hit a barn door if it fell on them. But before we get into all that, if you are brand new to the channel, you like FM content, and you love to see people suffer playing the game, you're in the right place. So why not subscribe, like, watch and comment, help the channel to grow, and help us to support the very worthwhile cause you can see scrolling above. We have set this channel up to support the British Heart Foundation. So why did I win the FA Cup final and not a piece of genius from Lewis Wilden? Well, at the end of 90 minutes, Lewis Wilden was on a 6.3 and he was having an appalling game and everything that he did seemed to be going wrong. And so the first thing that you need to do is know your relationship with that player. And I know that my relationship with Lewis Wilden is very good. He has a very close relationship with me. He holds me in the highest regard as a manager, and I am actually top of his list of favoured personnel. I also know that he is a team leader. He is fairly professional. He wants to lead by example. And I know that mollycoddling him is not the way to go forward. He's old enough now at 29 years old to take responsibility, and so I can be critical with him, and he will take that on board because of the relationship that he has with me. And so after extra time had begun, I noticed very quickly after extra time that he made a dreadful error, and it just seemed to me that his mind was not on the job. Now, knowing Lewis Wilden, and without having to go to his attributes, I knew that he had a very poor concentration attribute. His concentration was just 9, and so it seemed to me when he made another error like that he wasn't concentrating, his mind was somewhere else. And so what I did was, just after extra time had begun, when he made that mistake, I shouted at him and I told him to focus. Now, I did not tell the whole team. I just picked him out as an individual and I told him focus. And then a few minutes later, he scored that worldie. Now, what I'm guessing is that what happened after I shouted focus at him, knowing that it was a weakness in his game, that his concentration attribute for a short period jumped up a few points, and suddenly he was able to concentrate a lot better in game, and he then produced that worldie. And FM built into the game over many years recently these different types of communication. You have communication with the board, you have communication with the players, you have communication with the press, and you have communication in a sense with the fans. And all this communication is quite important. It's not there just to fill in your time, it's there for a very specific purpose. And the better you know your players' strengths and weaknesses, you can then use this communication to bring out the best of them. And one of the ways that you can help them to improve on the pitch if they are not playing well is to shout the correct shout. And you can also use the team talks to communicate with them as a team or as individuals. I generally talk to them as a team first, but then the second talk I will talk to them as individuals. And at halftime, I'm particularly looking for players who are underperforming and players who are playing really well. And I will talk to those players as individuals, but I will treat them very differently. For example, if I have a young, developing 19-year-old who's struggling to get into the game, it might be better to talk to him and encourage him a little bit. Whereas if I have an older, more experienced, professional character, then it might be that I need to be pretty critical with him. But how much they listen to you will be dependent on the relationship that you have with them. So building those relationships is very important for all the players in your squad. And so the first tip is communication. FM have put this in the game for a specific purpose. Know your players, build up relationships with them, and then communicate with them in a way which is meaningful and will help improve their game. So let's move on to tip number 2 to help your players score more goals. And I do read about it a lot. My players have suddenly stopped scoring. My striker was scoring for fun earlier, but now he can't seem to score at all. So what is going on here? Why has that suddenly happened? Well, let's look at it this way. When you are setting up to play an opponent, you will go through their team and you will know that their striker is banging in goals for fun at the moment, and therefore what you will choose to do probably is to tight mark him. You want to take away the space that he has and therefore give him very little time to operate or very little space within which to operate. You are basically looking to take him out of the game. And if he is in such good form, then the manager of the team who plays after you will probably also do the same, and so on, until it becomes apparent that he's not scoring any goals anymore, when one of the managers may decide that he doesn't warrant tight marking, and then he bangs in a few more goals 5 games down the road. And he starts scoring again, basically because he hasn't been in form, because he's been tight marked. And then when the next manager down the line doesn't tight mark him, he's got more space and he suddenly starts banging in goals again. And that's what actually happens in football. We have to remember that there are 2 teams on the pitch here, and it's not just us setting up for opponents, but the opposition are also setting up for opponents too. And so the solution to that is when it starts to happen, when he suddenly starts to have a couple of poor games where he can't get into the game, there are a number of things that you can do. Just think that he may well be being tight marked at the moment. He's been scoring goals and suddenly now teams are taking away the space for him to operate in. Now what you have to do therefore is somehow find a way to get him into space again. Now it might be to change his role, and you may want to say, okay, let's play him as a deep lying forward on attack. Now that means that he's going to drift into deeper areas. And not only is he going to have an emphasis on getting into the penalty area himself, but he's going to sit in positions deeper where he's able to bring others into the game and provide scoring opportunities for others. But also when he does drop deeper, he may well be pulling defenders with him. If he is being tight marked, he will pull defenders with him, creating space when he drops deeper. So that's one way to do it, is to change his role and try to find him space by changing the role. And the other way to create space for him is to change his individual instructions. Now at the moment he's playing as an advanced forward on attack and he has no individual instructions. But if I want him to find more space, then what I could tell him to do is roam from position. If he was a good dribbler, then what I might like him to do is not roam from position, but try maybe to dribble more, to carry the ball past opponents and try to find space by doing it that way. There are a number of options that you can use to help your forward find some space. The reason why he's not scoring is because he is being tight marked. You just said yourself, he's been scoring goals for fun. Now teams are tight marking him, they're taking away his space. It's your job now as the manager to help him to find space, and that means changing the way that he is playing. And so there are two ways that you can help your strikers recover their form. And you can do this by A, communicating properly with them, and B, helping them to find space. And that's it for this video. If you are brand new to the channel, then why not subscribe, like, watch and comment, help the channel to grow and help us to support the very worthwhile cause that you can see scrolling up above. This channel has been set up to raise money for the British Heart Foundation. And so we have come to the end of this video, and I hope you found something useful. And next time when your striker is struggling for form, why not try one or even both of these techniques? It does work. Lewis Wilden became a hero. We turned an absolutely appalling performance into a match-winning performance just with a couple of clicks. And so all that remains to be said now is stay safe, take care everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.